Hello and welcome to the public part of the core team meeting on the 22nd of April 2020. And yeah, let's get started and run down the triage list. Staged RFC, stage design, whatever. Nico?
I'm muted, aren't I? Yes, I was. Sorry. It's currently in RFC. The RFC that defines project groups and their terminology is currently pending FCP, waiting for someone to give a final check. None of those people are in this meeting at the moment, so I won't harangue the rest of you. That's the current status update.
Thank you. I put that up front. Legal issues discussion status has not changed because we have discussed that mid-May would be the right time to start the work on this. So I'm going to make a little bit of a task list over the next 2 weeks so that we can start mid-May. There's a question that came up around the issue of installer signing. I have added that. I've talked to Peter around noon today, and it seems like the biggest issue around installer signing is who's going to hold the signing certificate. Like which legal entity will be on the signing certificate. So given that the issue is roughly 5 years old and we got complaints from antivirus vendors, is there anything blocking any of the entities involved in Rust in holding that certificate, at least for a while, until we can form maybe another entity?
I can certainly raise the question.
Mozilla has
holding it?
Offered. I've talked with like the Mozilla, what's it called? Signature autograph, the autograph folks, and like they were certainly okay with Mozilla doing the signing. And they like gave me docs as well for how all this works, which I forwarded to the infra team. So it seems like overall Mozilla has been okay with, in the past at least, when asked, they've been like, yeah, we can, if we're using Mozilla infrastructure to do the signing, we can use the keys, because their infrastructure is presumably like they have some hardware set up and whatever. So I don't think they can just give us a key, but we can set something up with Task Cluster to do the signing.
In my opinion, I would actually rely on an organization with track record anyways. I would not want to self-host signing key infrastructure, but this is something to be considered anyways.
Yeah, it seems like Mozilla is the logical entity to do this, right? They hold the trademark and so forth. It just makes sense.
Yeah, like regarding signing infrastructure, we already have, like for the GPG signatures, so we already have our self-hosted infrastructure, which is not really great from a security point of view. But like, yeah, the main question here is that if the project is fine with the binaries being signed by Mozilla, since that's sort of noticeable. Like when you download the binary, at least on Windows, it says signed by Mozilla. And so like the concern there would be whether we, like the perception of Mozilla being the one signing the binaries. If the project wants to be separate from, give the appearance and try to separate as much as possible from Mozilla, that's not a step in the right direction. But honestly, I don't yet know exactly how I feel about this. Like I need to think about this a bit more.
Yeah, I feel kind of like when it comes to executable signing, it's the owner of the cert is less of a like prominent thing and less of a problem, because it's mostly just like as long as any authorized company signs this, it's fine, and nobody really cares about who it is. But yeah, basically, I think we should be fine with this, and this is mostly temporary until like we figure out how to fix all this. So.
May I ask a question? Is there a technical hurdle or is it purely the question of?
I've seen the document that Manish. There's an issue up that Manish was mentioning. So Autograph needs. So we need some implementation on our side to
Yes.
deal with this. There's a task list to do that. So just needs to be implemented. But yeah.
Autograph only runs via task cluster, and they've got like IP whitelisting and stuff like that. Now we could expand that, but I think they don't want us to do that. Instead, what we can do is when we want to assign a binary, we can teach our infrastructure to kick off a task on task cluster that does the last step. So we can like set up a little chain there.
But I think.
Yeah, like that sounds a bit complex with our existing infrastructure, because like I want this not to be signed by CI, but to be signed when we actually do a release in the promote release binary, and like adding a wait step for getting the signature, because then we need to, after Autograph signs it, we need to do our own GPG signature on each file. So, like
so what machine runs this right now?
RCS, which is a machine on our AWS account with a static IP. So like whitelisting that single IP would be.
So would it be okay for that service to ping task cluster and get a signature?
Just like, I think we're getting into like plain infrastructure discussions.
But yeah, there are implementation issues, but I feel they're not insurmountable. It's just annoying.
Yeah, sure. Like the problem is twofold. One is getting the certificate and deciding which legal entity is going to have the name on the certificate. And the other one is just a purely infra question on how to implement signing with whatever solution we choose. Yeah. And that needs people to do the work.
Does anyone have an issue with Mozilla signing our installers until another entity that has enough credibility to sign Rust binaries comes up? Also, just to be clear, this also includes the Rust-up binaries.
Yep.
Rust-up, like Rust-up actually being the bigger problem on Windows. It's definitely a severe problem on Windows because the new Windows 10 message is highly, highly hostile to actually clicking through and installing this binary. So that's a serious first issue. Okay, anyone raising any concerns to if Mozilla ends up being the current signing entity for our binaries? Okay, then I will check this off. We can see where this is going. Next up, white papers. I have not been able to continue with this over the last week. Rust survey, Nico?
We're done here.
We're done.
There's a blog post, it's out. I think there was a nice analysis that I would recommend you all take a look at. I would be interested, we're done with sort of publishing the results. What we are not done with perhaps is thinking through what they mean. So one thing I've been contemplating the idea of was maybe if people are interested, like those who want to, we could have a time to go over the results and think about what they mean and what they might say for what we ought to prioritize and so forth. I don't know that there's any dramatic lessons in there. I think the main things that caught my eye, first of all, Rust Analyzer has been really successful. It's interesting to look at some of the prominence of embedded. There's a few things sort of were surprising, like embedded shows up and it's more prominent than I might have expected. Apparently interoperability with R is highly desirable. I still find that very surprising. But the other main thing that stuck out was that there's a finding that people don't feel productive in Rust. There's a certain set of people who even after years do not wind up feeling productive in Rust. And I would like to know more about why that is. Like, I can make guesses, but already just on my small sample of people I asked, I came up with a few different answers. Like, for example, some people mentioned IDE support which I hadn't expected, and others language, of course, complexity and other things. So maybe it's interesting to try to suss out more details, but I'm not sure how we would do that beyond asking questions or running surveys and that. I don't know.
Okay. I also think this is useful, especially as some of the results were surprising. Also, embedded came out very, very high on the fields that people are using Rust in. The other thing that I found interesting is that on all the focus points that we had last year, we saw like the line skewed towards improvement. Like this is getting better. It isn't getting worse. It's getting better, which I think is a good message.
Yeah. And the addition was highly successful in terms of adoption. There's some really good success metrics in there, or at least positive. Do we want to try to organize a walkthrough of the, or like just time to talk?
Yeah, anyone want to? I can organize a walkthrough.
I think, so Nell did all the work on writing the blog post, and Aaron also worked pretty closely on it, Aaron Power. I wonder, I don't know that it has to, like, I think maybe we should include them.
We should definitely include them. I was just talking about organizing. I think that should be an open meeting for everyone on the project who's interested. I think that should not be bound to working groups, with a summary that ends up in the, like, for the whole project.
I think it would make sense to make an open meeting. I think part of my point was I think we don't, like, if people here are busy, I think we could find someone, like Nell might organize it, or Aaron, we could talk to them.
Okay, let's check this box. My computer's lagging. Governance working group.
There's no major update beyond the, we should probably just merge this with stage RFCs because they're kind of the same. I feel like every time we do this, I say one thing and then I feel like I have to say it again.
I mean, is the status update essentially the governance working group is working?
Yes.
I mean, then we can just check this off. If there's nothing to track and the governance working group is active, I think we should only track on specific issues that pop up.
I need to drop off. I'm like basically falling asleep. I'm gonna ping me if you need something. But, yeah.
Have a good rest.
Don't fall asleep on stream. Thank you. Target tier policy RFC.
So I brought this up before. I think this needs some revision, I guess, is the current status. And I talked to Josh about doing that, but I don't think it's been done.
Okay. Designate a liaison to Mozilla Legal.
Oh yeah. So Pietro, did you want to talk, or do you want me to?
Yeah, basically we have some teams, especially the CredSeo team, that semi-regularly needs to get into contact with a lawyer to get legal advice. And at the moment that's a bit chaotic because, as far as I understand, the Mozilla lawyers only want to talk with Mozilla employees. And there is a bit of a it's not clear where with who we should communicate and things like that. And so the idea that me and Nico had while chatting in private is to designate a person in the Rust project that's responsible for handling communications with Mozilla Legal. And
so specifically a Mozilla employee. So I can elaborate a little. There's a Mozilla. There's if they communicate with employees, those communications are covered under attorney-client privilege. If they communicate to non-employees, then they are not. And so they would prefer to do like deliberations and so forth while covered under privilege. So they want an employee for that. I think that's reasonable, makes sense. But that could be me, but then I kind of have a lot of things on my plate. So I was suggesting, well, maybe Nell might cover it, and then Pietro felt like it would make more sense to, well, that it would be nice to have someone who's, this is the person that you go talk to if you want to reach out to a Mozilla lawyer and they'll manage it for you.
Okay. I think that makes sense. My view on this would be that in that case, the Rust team at Mozilla should just appoint someone.
Yeah. That's fine.
then that would be the job of the Rust team at Mozilla, and they can appoint someone.
That's roughly what we wanted to, or what I was proposing. I think it's what
then,
Pietro is also proposing.
But then you can internally discuss this and find the person best on the other side instead of us choosing them.
Yeah. And like an idea I had was to create a sort of private repository where team members could open an issue and then the liaison would forward the request to Mozilla Legal and write back when there is a consensus. Or if you want to handle this via mail, I don't know what's best.
I think
it can be up to the person being the liaison. What's the way they feel more comfortable?
I was going to say that sounds like a good thing for them to figure out. But
I think it's a good idea to have some kind of trackable internal record on this. Okay. So that concludes the public part of the meeting. Anything to add? Any other issues that people want to raise? Okay.
Just to be clear, we roughly resolved. The Rust team and Mozilla will determine a liaison, right? We roughly resolved. We will determine a liaison, and I don't know if I don't think we. It's fine. That's good.
Let's track that for as long as we haven't appointed someone.
Yep. Occurs to me it could also be like Manish, for example. But,
yeah, like I'd slightly prefer a core team member because that way, if there is an issue that is private, we can avoid getting more people in the loop. But
yeah, that's
I don't care that
reasonable.
much.
Okay.
I'll ping around and we'll discuss it.
Then I'm going to stop this recording.